What's up everybody and welcome to the channel. Today we are talking about the best $60,000 mid-size truck. So right here is the brand new 2024 Ford Ranger Raptor. This specific truck is $59,000. Now if we look at the Toyota Tacoma lineup, a similarly equipped Toyota Tacoma TRD Off Road with the iForce Max engine and the premium interior is about $58,000. So nonetheless, you can get these trucks for the same pricing. So basically, the Raptor Ranger seems to be right in the middle of Tacoma's lineup. You can spend around 65 grand and get the Trail Hunter or a TRD Pro, and without the hybrid engine, you're looking at mid $50,000. So this is kind of smack dab in the middle between the TRD lineup that Toyota is going to have to offer. But let's take a look at what these trucks have to offer. Which truck would you pick for 60 grand? So when we're talking about what is powering each of these trucks, the Raptor Ranger only has one awesome engine. You're gonna get a 3-liter twin turbocharged V6 with 405 horsepower and 430 pound-feet of torque paired to a 10-speed automatic transmission. This truck also has a full-time 4-wheel drive system, of course, locking differentials, towing's around 5,500 pounds, payload is 1,300 pounds, curb weight is also around 5,300 pounds. Now underneath the hood of the new Toyota Tacoma, not exactly the same sort of situation. The only engine is a 2.4-liter inline 4-cylinder turbocharged motor. There's no more V6 for any of the Toyota Tacomas. However, Toyota does have a small trick. Now while this one is not the iForce Max, the big boy engine for the Tacoma is a hybrid on that same exact engine called the iForce Max. So same engine, turbo, 4-cylinder with the hybrid system. You're now talking about 326 horsepower with 465 pound-feet of torque paired to an 8-speed automatic transmission. This truck has payload around 1,600 pounds, curb weight is 5,100 pounds, and then towing capacity on this one is actually a little bit more, closer to 6,000 pounds. So while this only gets a 4-cylinder option, with that hybrid, you're gonna get a lot more torque in this versus more horsepower over in the Raptor. Now for exterior styling, of course, the Raptor Ranger is gonna be a bit more flamboyant with some really aggressive lines all throughout. Stylistically, it's gonna compete more with a Trail Hunter or a TRD Pro. The TRD Off Road definitely looks a little bit more subdued. Still a great looking truck for sure, but I think the Raptor is definitely going to take the win. I mean, for $60,000, that definitely looks pretty sweet compared to the typical Tacoma. At the rear end, once again, the Raptor is a super aggressive looking truck, really makes the Ranger look like a heck of a cool midsize. Tacoma TRD, just kind of typical as you'd expect. Just the only real cool thing is the nicer set of wheels and the fender flares. But once again, stylistically, I think the Ranger Raptor for 60 grand takes the win. You gotta spend another 5 grand to get the high trim TRDs on the Tacoma to get the really cool aggressive exterior. So moving on to the interiors now with the Ranger Raptor, this is a pretty sweet place to be. Now once again, this is fully loaded. So this is the top tier trim for the Ranger. You get a sweet steering wheel, perforated leather. There's even paddle shifters on it. Very vertical screen. I'm not the biggest fan of the screen. It's just a little bit, it's got small tiles, so it's kind of hard to look at sometimes, but you're gonna have all the information you're going to expect. There's all sorts of trail cameras as well. You can get a front view, rear view, top down, full 360. So you have all the off-road things you're gonna want in this truck. You can monitor your 4-wheel drive system. There are drive modes. You're gonna have some street ones like your normal as well as sport. Then you can scroll into different off-road ones. We have a Baja mode, there's a tow mode. So you really kind of get a blend of everything with the 4-wheel drive system. With that, you also have some fun modes on the steering wheel to further adjust the steering feel, the suspension, and the exhaust. You can go into a Baja mode and make it louder, or into a quiet mode and turn off the V6 sounds. So you get a lot of cool things in here. The seats are comfortable, it's a roomy place to be. The dashboard is very flat, so there's not much dimension with it. It does feel very straight up and down, dash and doors. You do have nice materials, a soft touch vinyl, 2 glove boxes as well, tons of hidden storage space, storage down below, wireless phone charging, nice materials throughout the door panel. I mean, I don't think there's really anything to complain with the interior. This is a good place to be. You got the technology, it looks great. So moving on to the Toyota Tacoma. Now, there are still supply issues these days. This is the one that they have available. There is an $8,000 premium package that will give you the soft touch vinyl throughout the doors, the nice soft touch seats, the ventilated seats, all the fancy stuff that you're gonna see in that Raptor. So this particular one, a little bit bare bones, but nonetheless, I've been in them. Check out our video on a Limited down below if you wanna see the really sweet interior. Night and day difference between the two trucks. Now, for this one, once again, it's a pretty sweet interior, especially when properly equipped. Just like on a Ranger, if you get a basic Ranger, they're kind of cheap feeling. This kind of cheap feeling as well. But when you compare them apples to apples, fully loaded TRD Off Road with a premium package is a sweet place to be. Now, I do like this screen better. You're gonna have a more horizontal versus the vertical, all the information just like the Ranger. However, the tiles are much larger. I find this easier to use. It looks a little bit better. I also like, you're still gonna get physical climate controls in both trucks. These, once again, are bigger, a little bit easier to see, and there is a little bit better use of storage space throughout the Toyota Tacoma. I also do like the dimension throughout the dashboard. There's layers to it, kind of different levels. There's storage here, nice sized glove box. So I think overall, I kind of like the Tacoma just slightly better. Not to say that isn't awesome, it's just I like the dimension with this a little bit. The gauge cluster in the center isn't as cool. There are gonna be drive modes though. You can toggle this. You really just have Sport, Normal, and Eco. And then when you go into the multi-terrain select, you will get several different off-road drive modes as well. Depending on how you mix and match it, you're gonna have sway bar disconnect is available in this truck, locking differentials. So kind of very similar. Honestly though, a fully loaded Tacoma to that, I would say are neck and neck as far as the cool factor. It just, pick the one that kind of fits your preference. I think they're both really sweet. Now with the Tacoma, there's no paddle shifters or exhaust modes. It's not gonna sound the same, but you definitely get some extra street stuff in the Raptor versus maybe a little bit more off-road capabilities in this Tacoma. So backseat time, we are in the Toyota Tacoma. Sitting here, the backrest is kind of straight up and the seat does feel a little low. I'm 5'11". With the driver's seat at my height, I have decent legroom and knee room. They're fitting. I am just barely touching these seats. And again, if you opt for that premium package, there's actually just a little bit more space back here than the simple cloth ones. There's a little cutout. So it's fine back here. There's no center armrest, there's no air vents. You just get a few USBs along with the cup holders, grab handles on this B pillar and a dome light, power sliding rear glass as well. It's fine. I mean, I wouldn't say it's the greatest back seat ever, but not the worst for sure. Hopping into the back seat with the Ford Raptor Ranger, this is a pretty nice back seat at 5'11". I have plenty of headroom. There's a cutout on the seat to give me just a little bit of knee room and foot room. I'd say about on par with the Tacoma. The bases and backrests are at a good angle to where, honestly, I fit pretty comfortably in here. Armrests are nice. There's no air vents either in this, which again, I don't know why truck manufacturers and manufacturers in general don't do this. I think General Motors is the only one with them. You have a little storage, a few plugs, but unlike the Tacoma, you are gonna see a nice spot in the center with armrests and cup holders, and then the sliding rear glass. So I think the Ranger's back seat is just a little bit better comfort-wise. It's just a little bit more roomy for a grown-up. So I think this does take the win for a better back seat. So moving on to the bed space, you can get a spray and bed liner in the Toyota Tacoma. There's also rails throughout the top to add accessories, power outlet, extra storage, storage and USBs on the left side. And then if you do get the higher trims, you have power operations for this tailgate where you can press a button or just bump it with your knee and that'll automatically go up. Ranger doesn't have anything like that. However, you have these spots for C-clamps and a little tape measure. Spray and bed liner, slightly smaller bed, no extra rails, but there are a few tie downs and then power outlets. So I think the Tacoma overall will offer you a better bed, a little bit more useful of a truck. So in the normal mode, let's get up to some speed. This thing is comfortable. I really like these seats in it. Obviously I can drive this harder than I'll be able to in a brand new car, but this thing is quick. It gets up and moves. Very linear power too. I like that aspect. You can tell the twin turbo power just keeps building, keeps building. You got a good view around, really nice place to be. Like I genuinely am loving just sitting in this truck and driving it. But easy to see around, great armrest, good padding, good use of space. I mean, no issues, just getting comfortable driving this truck. Like I mentioned with the screen, I'm not the biggest fan of these smaller controls, the little tiny icons. It's not that easy to use. There are the physical controls down below. And once again, you kind of gotta let the screen turn on when you first hop in it. Tap the fan speed to crank it up and wait for the screen to turn on. So the little bit of lag on the screen, since even though you have physical controls, you still depend on the screen to kind of react. That is my one drawback. So let's go into the sport mode. I do like, you can toggle it into manual mode, which for me, that's pretty fun, especially on a sporty focused truck. This thing is quick. I mean, the fact that you can adjust the exhaust, we're gonna go into Baja mode for the exhaust, and we can adjust the steering feel. There's a lot of drive modes, like true drive modes that, you know, the F-150 Raptor was known for. That truck is kind of a staple, and Ford is giving the Ranger Raptor all of that cool fun factor to where this is a fun on-road sport truck, but then we know we can go off-roading in it, do some Baja runs, and you're in a pretty wild truck. Now it is cool when you go into the Baja mode, it'll put it into a 4-wheel drive setting, and when I was playing with this in the rain, in the normal sport mode, I can drift the back end out when I'm turning, which was pretty fun. Put it into the Baja mode and you got just all 4 wheels really gripping so well. And this turns into something you can just rip it in any circumstance. Obviously Baja, you can be ripping it in the dirt, just hauling butt, and this thing is gonna tackle it all. So I really have nothing negative to say about this truck. A few little quirks. I'm not a big fan of the shifter. You gotta be kind of delicate with it. I'll go into park a lot when I'm trying to go into reverse. Other than that, door handles, I like them, but I'm very used to grabbing up here for a door handle. So just little things you gotta get used to, like I said, with the screen. It sounds good though, it sounds beefy. This thing is really cool. It's got a lot to go for it. You can even hear the turbo blow off when you let off. So I feel like if you want a street truck where you can just drive it like a sports car, which I love sports cars, I've only ever owned sports cars, this is the mid-size truck for you. Alright, so setting off now in the Toyota Tacoma. Now again, supply things, I can't exactly just pick the perfect one off the lot to compare to, unfortunately. However, I've been in the Limited with the iForce Max, been in the iForce Max in the Land Cruisers, so I've been around the Tacomas enough. We've driven quite a few of them to know exactly what they're like. As far as the view out, this is definitely a little bit more aggressive feeling. I love the layered look to the dashboard and doors. So I do kind of like the interior better on this just because you have the dimension. The Ranger's a little flat. Again, that's personal preference, makes no real difference. They both look cool, but I do like this a little bit better. In just the normal 4-cylinder, which you can get for, good amount cheaper than the Raptor. I mean, you get up to speed fine. It's certainly no performance-focused drivetrain, but it's still peppy, and it's honestly a really good engine. I don't mind it at all. It feels very similar to the normal Ranger. When you do get the hybrid in this thing is quick. Now, once again, you're not going to get like that street-focused aspect with even the hybrid Tacoma. This is basically going to be adequately powered. There's no exhaust sound or anything fancy as far as that goes. But with the hybrid, you get a lot of download torque, more than the Raptor. So for street use, while it may not be loud or fun to shift it with paddle shifters, you're going to get the power out of it. So equally, both trucks are kind of the same when it comes to power. It just depends on, do you want more of the fun factor with the sound and the shifters and having the more linear power versus having that electric power down low. So it's kind of a toss-up. I like the V6 better though. I can't argue with that. It is cool. Don't mind the hybrid though. Interior on this one, cheap ones are kind of cheap, as are the Ford Rangers, but when you take this, either a limited or a fully loaded one, they're sweet. You got cool stitching, you got TRD logos, so honestly, they're both really awesome interiors when perfectly equipped with all the fun bells and whistles. As far as the ride quality goes, this has just normal Bilstein shocks, so you're not going to get the fun, fancy Fox shocks or anything like that. You got to get a TRD Pro or a Trail Hunter to get the fancy stuff. Trail Hunter is going to have the old man EMU setup. So once again, you got to spend more in the Toyota to get the crazy suspension. The Bilsteins, though, in a normal TRD are still fine. There's no modes that are going to change anything, nothing with the steering feel. So you aren't really getting as many modes and as many crazy features, I would say, for the same money from Toyota. So I think pound for pound, money for money, the Raptor gives you a lot. It kind of gives you what Toyota offers in a Trail Hunter and the Pro, but for $5,000 less. And on top of that, you get the cooler sound, the cooler engine, and the paddle shifters. So I think value standpoint, the Ford Raptor Ranger has a lot going for it. I really can't complain with it. There's nothing really to argue. Little things that I do like better in the Tacoma, you have a screen down here for climate, so instantly when you hop in, crank up the fan speed just like that. You don't have to just tap, 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 and wait for the screen to react. So I like having its own separate system versus in the screen. And like I said, I like the bigger tiles on here. The screen isn't really as fancy. The Ford's looks cooler, but fundamentally this is easier to use. Gauge cluster in the Ford is cooler. This one, it's fine, just a little old school looking for being digital. Ride quality, normal things like that. This is still comfortable. It absorbs bumps well. Nothing really to complain about. Again, no steering mode, so it just is what it is. But it's got a pretty good light feeling, but it still has some good feedback as well. So it's a toss-up. I think the trucks are different enough to where you may not cross-shop. If you're really wanting the TRD Pro or a Trail Hunter, Those are great for the overlanding, for the off-road capabilities, having sway bar disconnect, the 360 cameras and all that. They're really set up for off-road. I think if you want a little bit more on-road capability, the Raptor is a better choice. So with all that said, driving the Raptor Ranger alongside the newest 4th gen Toyota Tacoma. Again, I've been in several of these, so I kind of know them as a whole spectrum. I think I'm kind of torn. If I was really gonna buy one right now for 60 grand, I don't know. What I like about the Raptor, I love the on-road capabilities. I like the fact that I can use the paddle shifters. It sounds good. It's got this smooth twin turbo V6 power that I like in a sports car. So this truly has on-road sport performance that is a blast. It also does have all the off-road settings you can play with, have some fun there. No sway bar disconnect, so it's not gonna quite do the articulation that you will find in a Tacoma. However, when you look at the Tacoma, you know, you're gonna be towing a little bit better in it. With the hybrid, you're gonna have better low-end power with the EV system for towing. So if you truly are gonna be towing, using the bed space, using this as a truck, this is a little bit better option. A loaded up TRD Off Road hybrid is what my brother is gonna be buying very shortly. That's a great setup. He's gonna be towing with it. He needs that capability. The Raptor might struggle just a little bit since it won't have that low-end torque. So I think it comes down to, are you gonna be off-roading a lot, doing the overlanding adventures, trail driving, and just general street driving? Go for the Tacoma. If you want to rip it on the street constantly, kind of like me, I guess that means this is more my taste, and I like a sports car, so this kind of has the sports car vibes. And then even with the pros and trail hunters, you will get the extra fancy suspension in them, the crazy seats in the TRD Pro, but you're still not going to get the paddle shifters or the sound. So that's kind of where we draw the line, just a little bit more on-road fun factor, a little better capabilities and off-road capabilities in the Toyota. Toyota also gives you a huge spectrum, I think a little bit better broad spectrum versus the Ford Ranger in general. But comment below, for $60,000, what are you buying? Ford Ranger Raptor or one of the TRD Toyota Tacomas? If you guys enjoyed today's video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, stay tuned for plenty more content, and we'll see you all in the next video.